Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Bertie podcast. This is episode 30. Bertie, what are we going to do to celebrate today?
Just have an easy, free chat.
Okay. I want to delve into insight today. It's part of your framework, and I have in front of me the topics that has to do with that. So I'm going to look at where we can delve in that. People are going to find that interesting. But Bertie, I want to let's talk here live on the show now to celebrate number 30. Why don't we make an offer to your audience? I know some people, there's a lot of buzz around what you do and that. Let's see if we can get people involved in some way in engaging with you. What kind of offer can we make you? Can we say, listen, book Bertie at half price or something like that? What do you have in mind?
I will be comfortable with whatever. I mean, we can certainly give our listeners an opportunity to have a chat at no cost even. And let's say the first 5 that contact us with a question or a challenge about the subject matter we're going to talk about, or even anything else. And I'm willing to offer them an hour free coaching each.
Okay. Bertie, let's make it 3. The first 3 people that leave a comment and ask a question today, they will get a 45-minute session with Bertie, obviously within his own schedule. I can see there's already 4 people listening to this. These interviews are doing very, very well. Bertie, let's kick it off. We're talking about insight today. And if you were to explain in a few sentences what insight is and what does it have to do with success, can you give us a breakdown of that?
Core to success is self-belief. But self-belief only follows from you understanding and knowing this individual, this person himself, which also start with loving yourself, being able to love yourself unconditionally. And it's so much easier if I know this person. It's so much easier to love somebody if you intimately know that person. Not intimately engaged, intimately know the person. So insight, by definition, is introspection. I must get to understand this person right down to the core. Me, myself. If I need some help to bring myself to the fore, that is true. And that is what coaching is all about. But in essence, insight means I'm looking inwards and going to go to the strengths and weaknesses of this individual. That is based on self-belief.
Okay, so why do you feel it's important to find the real you within yourself?
You know, I often say that each and every one of us were born unique. And in that process, we were also given and entrusted gifts by God that we started our life out with. But unfortunately, because of many reasons, school, culture, where we live, economic, social, political environments, has molded us and forced us into boxes. So we are actually living lives as we sit here and as we listen to this podcast. We were molded, and it's not the true self. What I need to understand is that I am unique and I'm myself, and I must get myself out of this and start believing everything that I can. Not what everybody else has told me I can, cannot, and should not.
So if I talk about finding the real me, is that going to help me direct me to my purpose? Is that going to kind of unearth my potential, the meaning for life, etc.?
It can unearth and lead you to your passions, not necessarily your purpose. Your purpose gonna follow on your passions, but knowing what you love doing, getting answers to your personal why questions, not the how and the what, but your why question. will lead you to understand your passion. And there's a lot of processes and systems and that we can follow to help you to identify that. And I'm not talking about aptitude or IQ tests and whatever. I'm talking about your feelings being attuned with the personal self. Okay.
Does knowing yourself help you to instill confidence? Because let's be honest and say that if you have any level of confidence, success improves. And obviously, we're not talking about a prideful confidence, just confidence in yourself. And so we look into the series of that, creating a self-belief and self-esteem within yourself. How crucial is that in a person's life?
Confidence obviously comes from what I can or I cannot do. I mean, Mata said about, you can train and teach a horse as long as you want to and spend as much as you possibly can, but you'll never teach and get a horse to climb trees. They are not born to climb trees. That is the baboon's job. Okay, so we must understand that. So people can train me, but if I'm not conducive and take ownership of the training, I will not be molded into a shape that I can have confidence with in going forward. I mean, if I practice and exercise, do a specific sport, the more and the harder I work, the fitter I get, the more skilled I get, the more confidence I grow in doing and being just that. But so confidence comes with my inward ability and knowledge that I can. That's where confidence comes from. It's got nothing to do with courage. It's confidence that we're talking about.
Are you when we're talking about confidence here, are you referring to? We had this conversation about realism a couple of times, where you gave me an example early when we started spending time together. You said, I would maybe have aspirations to be a rugby player, and I want to play for the Springboks, but I've got I don't know how you refer to it. I think you said a limp leg, or you don't have a foot or some disability, and realistically, that's probably not going to happen. Is that something that people have to consider? Is that not going to be, negative for people, or discouraging for them to say, okay, I want to do this. Can I really do it? And then what I'm careful of always in my own development is there's something that I want to do, and now I go and find, because you can do that, I can go and find 1,000 excuses why it won't work. Is there a balance between those two things?
Certainly. I mean, you've got to be realistic. As I say, we've got to be realistic. We will never get that horse to climb trees. Okay? So we sometimes along the line, we need to be realistic. Maybe I can just use a story out of my own life. If you allow me a couple of seconds. When I was 16 and in grade 12, those days, matric, I suffered a hip fracture. And at that stage, the doctor's prognosis was that I would never play sport again, and then I would probably be on crutches permanently by the age of 25. Now, at that age of 16, the only thing I've done up to then, other than being forced to educate myself and to learn to regurgitate the stuff so that I can pass the subjects, is I did sport. That was my passion. I never even at that stage at a date of any nature with a girl. It was just that. Now you lie there and the doctor says to you, that's the end of your life. He didn't use the word be realistic, but he said, you'll never do sport again. That means the next year I couldn't go to the army. And I wanted to go because, I'm a young man. I want to experience the excitement of going to the army, irrespective of what people may say about it. So weeks came and go, and I often cried myself to sleep at night. And then I started to help others at the school and coach rugby. So I was involved with the 13, and then just one day I said, listen, I will get this body strong enough to play sport and to go to the army. And even if I then have to be on crutches at 20, at least I've had 4 more years of playing sport. Not just sitting around for the next 9 years to wait to be on crutches and never in any event be able to sport. I'm 65 years old today. I played provincial rugby the next year. I went to the army. It wasn't always easy, but I didn't accept the prognosis. It wasn't real to me. I couldn't accept it because that was the end of my world for me. So it wasn't within my control. Fortunately, this body is unique, and you can train and coach it and manage it. And as I say, it is 40 years other side of 25, and I'm running around and I'm still active in sport. So we need to be real and realistic about our expectations of the future. And we must often answer those questions ourselves, not necessarily go to others, because it's so easy to give you the easy come, easy go answer to your question. Because they are not challenged. You are challenged with your future that you have to live. Because once they've given you the answer, they move on. And you must answer with the consequence of the question and the answer that was given. So that's where that insight is so important to me, is that I must learn to understand and know this individual unconditionally. But I must also be realistic. As I say, sometimes being in a wheelchair and have expectations to play for the Springboks rugby can never be realistic. You'll just frustrate yourself. So somewhere along the line, we must say, this is my limitations. What can I do with my limitations? And get guidance to help you from that point onwards. So it doesn't help. I look at the other side of the table or the other side of where my eyes rest, and I want to be like them. That is not the answer to insight. Might be part of the answer to my foresight, but not to my insight.
Let's talk about originality. We're steering ourselves towards identity and self-discovery. When you're talking about I am me, that's a process of self-discovery for me. It is a process of I need to find who I am. And everything that you're developing in the individual is finding who the real you is. Questions like, who am I? What am I to do, etc. Let's talk about originality for a moment, because especially in the last, say, decade, even 25 years, there's been this drive towards originality and being myself and being, we're always having a conversation about a round peg in a square peg in a round hole, those kind of things. Can we talk about just that it's okay to be original, and it's actually good, because the uniqueness is where the flourishing and the purpose really come to fruition. If we look at our space coaching, a lot of people want to aspire to being these coaches. And what happens, especially in the content that you and I are constantly consuming, we realize that a lot of these guys start looking and speaking the same and saying the same things. What is the value of being original and being okay with being different? And before you answer, I just want to mention those that's on the line. If you have a question for Bertie, or you just have something to contribute to the conversation, if you post it in the comments today, Bertie, for the first 3 people, Bertie will give a 45 minutes free coaching call in the next couple of weeks. So I encourage you to go ask a question and let us know what your thoughts are on the show. Bertie, thank you.
Yeah, we must understand that the reason why we are boxed in by the schooling system or the communities or whatever the case may be that we develop, it's easier because then one treatment covers everybody. So it's so much easier for the schooling system to manage all scholars if you consider them all to be equal and to be the same. It's easy. That applies to the family environment. I mean, it happens with mom and dad. Not even them knowing that little Johnny and little Mary are different. It's much easier. I treat them the same. But if I listen to my words and somebody would play the tape back and that I can listen to what I was saying and the words I was using and so forth, I would understand that I was indifferent and unfair. But your question to, is it easy or is it difficult to stand out in the crowd? It is never easy. It's never easy because the moment you stand out, the focus on you. And you've got to be strong enough to handle it. The good and the bad and the ugly of that. Because people will find ways to force fit you back into the norm, what isn't considered normal. Because that, once again, is easy for them to use the right language to treat normal people. But not the exceptions, the different people. But that is part of the problem. We are born unique, then we take the rest of our lives to fit in. But through our uniqueness, we actually need to stand out. So for those people that's willing to take the punches that's thrown to them, that say, I am unique, I'm going to stand out, I'm going to be different, I'm going to be me. In order to do that, you must also trust that judgment, that call that you've made. And in order to be able to judge that, I once again need to know who I am. Okay? So that if anybody wants to judge me, I've got the answer from not my perspectives, from my facts. Because I am me. I know why I do what I do the way I do it. So if you want to challenge why I do what I do the way I do it, it's fine. You're welcome to do it. And I'll be able to answer you exactly because I've taken time to get to understand and know this individual. Because I've spent a lot of time with insight exercises to understand who this person really is. And that's why I've developed that I Am Me program, where it actually starts off with my dreams, my visions, so that I can understand where I'm going to go. But once I've done that, the second step in the program is, who am I? And I go through this exercise so that I can understand who I am, so that I can build onto this individual to reach my vision out there, my consideration and my definition of my planned future.
Give me your thoughts on this statement. I am not in competition with anybody because I have a unique purpose and calling. And therefore, everything I do will always flourish and prosper because that is my unique thing to do in this world.
I'd like to start off by commenting on that everything I do would not always be perfect and hardly ever would be. But it would be the best reflection of I can, because I trust myself and I believe myself. I am not going to be somebody else, because being somebody else is extremely challenging, because you've got to be somebody else then all the time, all 24 hours in the day. Because if you slip up once, people will see you're living a lie. You're a fraud. So you've got to live your own life your way. Okay? And once again, your way will be the best way that you feel fit. And that will be where your passion is going to come out.
Let's go into unconditional love a little bit. Let's talk about, there's a statement going around, and I think both of us, we quote it quite often. You cannot love or care for anyone else, which is the basis of a successful business. And that translates into, If I show my customers that I care, my business will flourish. And also my business will flourish if I take care of my employees. And that's my number one concern, that adage of I work for my employees, they don't work for me. Then the employees are working for my customers. What part does this adage of if you can't love yourself, you can't love anybody else play in success?
Yeah, when it comes to employees, I think at the end of the day, the understanding and the winning combination will be team. It's not everything about the employees, and nor is it nothing about the employees. And it's not everything about the customers, because we've now learned the customer is not always right. But it's also not everything about the entrepreneur, the manager, or the CEO of the company. It's really a combination of them. And that's why leadership is so important, where the leader walks with, not in front, not behind. He walks with those that he leads. So that's vitally important. And when I then talk about and look at unconditional love, the fact of the matter is, we are confronted constantly with beauty, with perfection, with success, but out there, because that's what we see, that's what we read, that's what we experience. We don't often sit and challenge ourselves in the mirror and does that same evaluation through our mind's eye, in terms of ourselves. So we need to spend that time in the mirror, that we can unconditionally. I mean, I've done exercises where I did presentations and talk to kids and help them. Then I go through a process, say, listen, let's just come and talk about yourself. Tell me, what is your true color of your hair? What is the true shape of your hair? Is it curly? Is it straight? And you ask them questions about their eyes, their dominant hand, their dominant eyes, dominant foot. They don't know themselves. So when they look at beautiful hair, it's always somebody else's. So they got curly hair, they see the straight hair, they love straight hair. Until they get to a point where they understand that person on the other side that's got the straight hair that they love so much is looking at their curly hair and says, if only I had curly hair. So when you come to that understanding, you come to the understanding that this person is actually perfect in many ways. In many people's eyes, this is perfection. And if we want to drive perfection, everybody else's perfection, we'll go crazy, because God has not created any person perfect. We've got elements of ourselves and things that we developed that we've inherited that is perfect, that is great, that is good. But there will always be a better way. And I'm always expanding and building on myself and growing so that I can be a better version of me. Nobody else. Me. Because the best version of me will be what I will be able to love unconditionally. All the flaws, all the good things, all the bad things. It's not so difficult. It's actually very simple. We already know that because we have seen it in everybody else. So we must just spend some time with ourselves, with this individual.
For those that are watching this stream right now, if you have any questions for Bertie, please post them in the comments below. Also, if you have any thoughts, maybe you have an opposing view. We love those. We love talking to people about these things. Post them in the comment section. And Bertie said that if you post the first 3 people that post a comment, he'll spend time with in a personal one-on-one coaching session. So please go ahead and do that. Bertie, one of the things that we've spoken about before is blockages in Insight. Do you want to dive a bit deeper into why blockages? What is the detriment of blockages in your life? Maybe let's speak about how do we identify them and why are they controlling us?
Okay. Because remember, as we develop, as we grow, we we grow and develop by seeing things and experiencing things. So even from just being born, and this first smile, being in our little pen that we have, the cot, starting to stand up and all this kind. We are experiencing things, but as we experience them, you can consider that it's like a videotape that we make. Just you take your cell phone, you take a video. All those things, experiences we do, we take the experience and we store them. We store them. When a situation arises, which is the same, that videotape is accessed and played, and we respond accordingly. So as we move on in life, from kindergarten to adulthood and to retirement, it's all we do all the time. We associate smell, taste, feelings, emotions, everything we associate with situations, we store it. But we must also remember and be reminded that our brain doesn't have the ability to distinguish between right and wrong. Those tapes are stored. Whether the origin of the tape is a bad experience or a good experience, a painful one or an enjoyable one, it doesn't matter. It's stored. When the situation arises, it plays, and you respond subconsciously, immediately, impulsively that way. Okay. And that in itself, we can understand, is a problem, because we have grown up to understand that certain things is not acceptable. All this abuse of women and children, whatever. You ask the question, why are people doing that? Are they just aggressive? Are they just frustrated? Whatever. I can promise you that back in their past, they experienced situations where the response and the action called for aggression. Now that they place for them where they are the aggressor. And so what do we need to do about that? So how can I become me, a good citizen that's acceptable? What can I do with those kind of things? The fact of the matter is we need to go and bring those tapes to the fore and delete them and replace them with a different experience. So that when that situation happened, this new tape is played, the new response. If we don't, we act according to the tapes that we've built up over the years. And that is why people will respond and do things that often they don't like. They actually inherently dislike what they've done. And they are so sorry afterwards. But in that moment, they respond according to past experience, which their brain is saying, that's the way you do it. That's how the way you get out of the situation. So often we then say we cannot really blame people because that's how they grew up. That's the community that they've been in. We need to help them. We need to guide them, get those tapes, delete them, replace them, and go forward, which is not easy.
What part has, sometimes we are scared of doing certain things, but it might be in our path and our trajectory towards success, but we don't follow those paths, even though they're predestined for us, or they, like, let's say, I may be destined to play local, let's say, provincial basketball, and I'm good at that, but I've had a traumatic experience at one of the basketball courts where I was held up at gunpoint or knife point, or someone beat me up or whatever. So are those some of the blockages that we sometimes experience, and how important is it to deal with those so that we can move on to success, because it might be something that we need to do?
I must be very careful here, because I can move into the psychological situations and science here. I call it science for that matter. But you're quite right. But we learn through experience to respond and react those situations better, and eventually put it to the past, because it really, like you say, the experience that you've had in the past put you in a mind state and a mindset about what can happen. So you're a basketball player, and like you say, you're superb. But all of a sudden, just one day, when there's a crucial throw that you have to do, then all of a sudden, something plays from your past. Whether it's a previous coach or your father or whoever said to you, when it's critical, you can't perform. You'll never be able to land this basket. In a split second, you doubt yourself and you miss it. And those are the kind of things that end up being blockages that people, by accident or on purpose, have just shared to you, because some people has got negative motivational outlooks in life. They focus on the negative so that you can be positive in terms of not doing it. But that critical situation, you respond accordingly, and you miss the basket, and your team lose the game. And I mean, I would not know that. That's why when we talk about coaching, we try to get to the core, really where it hurts, and often it's emotionally draining. If you take ownership of what you want to get out of coaching, you want to be better because you know you can, that the coach will take you into that core of you, and we open that wound and we replace and we start building on it. And we heal that wound, and you become better, and you start believing yourself. And those kind of negative thoughts doesn't appear anymore. But the negative thoughts can be the blockage. And it will come in different forms, different shapes, and at the wrong time.
Can we go back to originality again? I was just thinking about, a lot of times we see people and we say, okay, these guys are heroes. They are people that we aspire to, and I want to be like them. And there could be a little bit of reality in the balance where, like, that guy is just crazy and phenomenal. You'll never be like him. Can I be like him? Well, it depends. But is there a danger in having that hero and saying, I want to be like him, versus let me be myself and let me be an individual or original and touch the world in a way that they have never been impacted before?
That's a factual statement, because we will never know what is our potential if we don't challenge ourselves. Because once again, if I want to be somebody else, I can aspire to be as successful and as great and as big as somebody else. But I should not try to be them. Because the moment I try to be them, and I said it before, just now, if I try to be them, I need to be them all the time. And I don't walk in their shoes. So I cannot be them. So I will let my guard down once, and the people will see through me and see me as a fraud. I'd rather be the best possible product of myself than a second-hand product of somebody else. And that should be key. We must be guided by other people's successes, because they've set examples of what is possible. But so that draws us to be better, but that should not limit us, because we can even be better than those that we consider to be superb and excellent. And there's a lot of examples like that, where we actually, as youngsters, were so, if only I could be like. And you put your mind to it, and slowly but certainly you work on this individual and you become better. And if you look back one day, you just say, I actually surpassed whatever the achievement was of that individual that I almost considered a god. I've surpassed the qualities that person has brought to the world. So never limit yourself in your thoughts, because if you like somebody else, that could be limiting in itself as well.
Here at our home, we've been watching this series. It's like a game show on Netflix. It's called Titans. And so It's hosted by Dwayne The Rock Johnson, which is a wrestler and also a Hollywood movie star. And so it's amazing. I don't know how, but he's been getting these amazing individuals all over America together. And they are in, top physical form, strong, full of muscles. They have different things. But what's inspiring about it is they all come this event where they are tested beyond their limits, but each of them have a unique story. I haven't found one of them with a similar story. That might be in similar circumstances or something, but they don't have exactly the same story. And so let's encourage the audience for a moment and talk about that individual story and what an impact it could have on someone else's life. Because they might have been going through something similar, but they might have their own individual kind of experiences that they have. Or again, just looking at them and saying, wow, you've overcome something like cancer or abuse or whatever the case may be. And I've kind of experienced the same, but I want to overcome these things and do amazing things just like you. And so at the end of the day, it's that story that brings transformation and inspiration in someone else's life.
Ivan, it's so true. Every single one of us has got story or stories to tell, because throughout our life, we've had experiences that we've learned from, that sometimes put us back, and others that lifted us up and pushed us forward. We've had that, but we often don't understand the impact those stories had on our life, those changes, those little things that happened, how it impacted on our lives. And sharing stories is so powerful. We all know that storytelling is a unique technique, and some people just have the ability to tell a story, which is a true story and a personal story, in such a way that it's motivational and inspirational. And a lot of the speaker, you talk about the Titans. I mean, a lot of the people on the international speakers platform has got stories to tell. What changed in their lives that took them to believe in themselves, to go on the stage and start telling their story and share their beliefs and make a difference. Every single one of them, you can take all of them, whether John DeMartini or whether it's Tony, it doesn't matter who they are, they've got a story of themselves to tell. So go out there and share your story, because it's so much better to tell people what you've experienced and what you've gone through and how you got out the other side than to tell people what they should do. I hate many of these educational managerial books that people are selling all over the show, and because I feel all those stories and books tell me what I should be doing. Hardly ever do they tell me how I should be doing it, because that is their intellectual property. That is their edge. They don't tell me everything. But when you tell a story, when you tell a story, you are telling the story as you experience it from the start to the end. You don't leave halfway and say, now you can guess the rest, or buy my book, and then you get the balance. No, tell your story, because your story will be full of emotions. And through that emotion, you will get the other individual to start looking at themselves as well. So listen, I'm not all that bad, nor am I all that great. I'm just a human being that has that's gone through life, sometimes with good things and sometimes with bad things. And you're quite right. We've got to share those stories, because we grow other people and help them to understand that they're not alone.
All right, Bertie, for the first time in the times that we've had the show, I'm going to do something. Just watch your screen. Here is a comment by Megan Burgess Hudson. I don't know if you can see it. But she says, Bertie, there's a great approach to storytelling called functional story telling. Megan, you might not know this. I just left you a comment there, but Bertie has made himself available to coach you for a full 45 minutes anytime in the next couple of weeks. We'll be in touch with you just because you participated today. And also, we're celebrating the 30th episode of the Bertie Luru podcast today. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. And obviously, you've been awarded for your participation. Anybody else that's listening or that wants to participate to the show, please feel free to add your thoughts, your comments. We have 2 more spaces for coaching that Bertie will do in the next couple of weeks or so. So if you have a question or a thought, please post it up. Megan, if you have any questions, please post them up as well. We'd really appreciate it. Bertie, I want to just encourage you a little bit. Today, I had a conversation with someone that you know quite well, and we were talking about this process of self-development that you've been on. And you might not notice, but I think people look from the outside and say, you know what, again, you know what, I don't know if I'll ever get to that level. Bertie's just on another level. And so I know that you're very inspiring to people. Do you want to talk a little bit about your own process of kind of self-discovery, delving into and getting the value that you can give the world, starting to communicate to that and sharing it with everybody? Do you have something to share with the audience about that process that you've gone through?
Thank you. And first of all, I do want to say hi to Megan. I know Megan, and it's an honor to have her on my show. And I'll follow up with Megan. Looking forward to the chat. Yes, Ivan, I started my life, as I say, I started out in my grade 12 years where I understood that I can make a difference to other people's lives. They're also almost insignificant me. But I went to university and then became a teacher, because one of the things that I realized when I was a teacher is that I can influence youngsters by getting them to believe in themselves. And I've in the 3 years that I was actually a teacher, most of them were spent in rural areas in res, where it so happened that let's call them difficult children were sent to those races because the parents just couldn't handle them. But in those days, I didn't understand. I didn't even understand myself, because as a boy at school, I was always the troublemaker. Now that I know myself and I know that I'm a dominant right brain individual that get bored very quickly, need to do a lot of things, need to dabble in almost the unknown, and that's why I'm involved in it with this, and help people to create a vision, to understand what they're capable of. They just need to take their dreams and define it in the form of a vision and work towards that. And I'm passionate about that, because there's so many of us that stand out. And I now look back and I'm saying I never fitted in. The fact that I went to school when I was 5 and all my classmates were either 6 or 7 was already a difficult stage in my life, because obviously I was the smallest, was the easiest to bully. Okay. And I didn't understand the concepts. So I accepted, but all I said to myself, if I'm stronger and better and faster, I can make it. Stronger, better, faster. And that's what I focused on. So when I started out as a teacher, I instilled those principles. Those principles in my scholars, the academical side as well as the sports side. Believe in yourself, exercise, and go for it. Be stronger, fitter, and faster. And to this day, I still hold that statement. And now more than ever, I'm able to say to people, the fact that you don't fit in doesn't mean you are wrong. I did an exercise recently. Eileen might be on the show itself. Now she does profiling. and it's very good when you want to establish what subjects your kids must take for school, because what careers should they be following. And through this exercise, he actually said to me, Bertie, part of your challenge that you're experiencing today is you should have been left-handed. But at the times when I was brought up, if you wrote with your left hand, you got a couple of clubs every time you tried that. So there's only one way to write it. That's with your right hand. But we know that if you are left brain or right brain, it's a different way your body develop, because the things work across. You must allow yourself to be that. And I didn't fit in because I just simply wasn't. I was right brain. I wasn't interested in the academic part of school. It took me a long time to get to understand why I do what I do the way I do it. And with the help of people like Kobus Netland, and understanding the concept of whole brain thinking, I now can understand it, and I can share it with people. I share it with companies. I share it with teams where we get whole brain thinking organizations to understand the differences and how to capitalize on the differences. And this maybe is a subject for a different podcast. But the fact of the matter is that it is not easy to be different if you don't understand why you don't fit in. Because you try to fit in, but it is not the way you are. So I can never be passionate about trying to fit into somebody else's rules and regulations and their norms and their principles. If I buy into it, I buy into the principles and I can live the principles. But if I don't understand it and don't appreciate it and don't buy in, it is tough. I will also always be different. And my goal and my passion is to bring that to the fore. I don't want to be considered to be a motivational speaker. I want to be inspirational speaker, because I want to say to each and every one of you out there, each and every one of you are unique. You must have spent some time with yourself. The sooner, the better. And whether you are 55 years old or 25 years old, it doesn't matter. Get out there, spend some time, do introspection with yourself and find out who you are, and define then your passions and start living it, because through that you will have a full life. And I can help you, and all the coaches out there, mentors or whoever the case may be, just go to somebody that can help you to say, that's who you are, my friend. Live your life. You deserve it. You were born to be unique. Live out there, stand out the crowd. Don't try to fit in. You weren't born to fit in. The changes in the world will be made, and the influences will come from people that stand out in the crowd. And we've got a history of bad guys that stand out, and we had many stories of good guys that stand out and made differences. And that's all I would like to do. And sharing my past, and I can tell a lot of stories, personal experiences. But as I say, having cried myself to sleep more than one night, I made a decision in saying, then I will be on crutches at 20. But I'm going to do another 4 years of sport, because that is my passion. But your body, like in every system in your body, is absolutely phenomenal. What I feed this brain is what I believe and what will come out on the other side. So if mindset is that of negativity, yes, I will be a disaster. Nothing good will come from me. Or let's put it this way, hardly anything. But if I feed this brain positive thinking, and I have that mindset that I take through and I live that, everything is possible. Everything you do that you thought is impossible will be possible, I can promise you. Because if it's to be, it's up to you. But you have to believe it. Your mindset must be right and attuned to who you are, what you want to be. And nobody will convince you different. Then you will be able to say to your past, I'll bring all those tapes. I will not be able to delete them fast enough, because that's not the life I want to live. This is the life I want to live because I can make the difference because it's up to me. And at that point in time where you make that decision, your life will change completely. And sometimes you just need help for you to get those tapes and delete them, but also to get you to somebody to instill that self-belief, the trust in yourself, that little voice on your shoulder, and take your life from here on forward and forget about the past. And just to share that, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, and enjoying so much sharing what I believe and what I've experienced and what I've read about, success stories of other people. And every day I get another success story. So it's so phenomenal, you know. And having said that, I just want to share something I read today. Somebody sent me a WhatsApp story about this guru somewhere. And it's a long story, but I'll just keep it short, where this individual then came across, or let's rather say a thief came across his path. And they started talking. And the thief was changing all along as they were talking. And the thief was concerned about how can he get rid of his past to change and become a new person, because he now has to go out there and prove to the world, I'm not a thief anymore. I'm now a good guy. And this guru was talking about, you know, what happens when you take a light and you light the light like a candle and you take it into a cave. And immediately when you take the light in the cave, you light it up. It becomes bright. The light makes a difference to the darkness, and the darkness disappears. You will not be able to say to the light, please, this darkness have come a long way. The darkness has been in this cave for 10, 15, 100, 2,000, 1 million years. So little candle, you are too small and insignificant to make a difference to this cave. So please bring your light to the cave, but do it bit by bit, you know. So let's take a while, because the cave's darkness deserve light to only come over a period of time. It's not how life works. You bring the light to the cave and it's immediately, it lights up the cave. So the change you bring to the world and the change you bring to yourself is immediate. It's not necessary and needed to be step by step. So consider yourself a changed person. Bring the light to your life. Light up your life. Forget about the darkness. Park the darkness. Give away and say, I have, through this light, got rid of the darkness. And I'm going to live my life in the light of this little candle going forward. That's all you need. One moment in time. One decision.
Bertie, let's end off with this question by Megan. She says, what do you have to say about the role of personal values?
Thanks, Megan. The right way to live life is to have a value system that you can live, which you can follow and live according to. So my set of values, once again, we're back to how I was born. If we talk about Christian values, there's a set of values that you can say, I follow and I live in the light of those values. 10 commandments, or whatever the case may be. Those are your values that I live, and people can measure me by them. And I will not tell everybody what's my values. I'll just live my values. They will be able to see my values. Sometimes what is acceptable in the community or in an organization or whatever might be a set of values. If those values don't fit in with my values, there's a disconnection. And you will never be able to be passionate and being yourself in that organization or that situation or that community or in that family, whatever. If you cannot see yourself to be yourself according to those values, then just be true to your own values. Define it and set it and live by it. Thanks, Megan, but that is so true. And it's part of being who I am, that I can stand up and say, this is how I live my life. Nobody else's life, mine. This is how I said it. And I would define my values and live according to that. And all I expect from you and just all I want and pray for is that you are able and capable to live your values all the time the way you want to. And not sometimes have to change and live values according to somebody else's values that you believe that they would like me to do and to say. Because once again, then I'm once again living a lie, living a fraud. That's not the, I'm not going to be true to myself. Then I need to move on, make the change.
Awesome. And that wraps up the 30th episode of the Bertie Roux podcast. Bertie, thank you so much for your time. It's always great to hear you, your thoughts, and learn from you. And I think the community got a lot of value from this today. If you enjoyed this podcast, if you're watching it on YouTube, please make sure that you subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell that you can get all the latest stuff. If you're watching this live feed in Facebook, you can click on turn on notifications so you can get all the latest broadcasts that we do every Tuesday at 4:00. We are here to talk to you about vision with imagination. Thank you, Bertie, for your time.
Thank you very much. And to listeners out there, thanks for listening, and appreciate your support, and talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.